Okay, so Thailand.
Thailand.
It's a dream for so many of us, right?
Absolutely.
Those beaches that food the culture.
It's magical.
And this guide is all about making that dream a reality.
Owning a piece of it, yeah.
Legally owning a piece of it.
Yeah, legally and safely, which is key.
That is key because I will admit, when I first started digging into this guide,
Yeah.
the very first thing that jumped out at me was this idea that you can't actually own land in Thailand as a foreigner.
Right off the bat.
I know, big surprise.
It's a big one. Yeah, it's something that people don't always realize when they start dreaming about, owning a property in Thailand.
Exactly.
They just kind of assume it's going to be like other places.
Right.
But Thailand's got its own
rules.
set of rules.
Yeah, and that's why we're here. So let's break it down because the guide lays out a couple of different options, but I think the one that most people are probably familiar with is the idea of buying a condo in Thailand.
Yeah, condos are definitely the most straightforward way to go if you're a foreigner.
But it's not as simple as just, picking one out and handing over the cash, right?
Right. You've got to play by the rules, and the big one here is the 49% rule.
Okay, 49%. What does that mean?
So basically, foreigners can own their condo unit outright, but when you look at the entire building, foreigners can't own more than 49% of it.
So if I buy a condo in Thailand, let's say it's in Phuket.
Okay.
Gorgeous view.
Nice.
I don't actually own the land under my condo.
No, you don't own the land itself that usually belongs to a Thai entity, but here's the thing, you still get freehold ownership of your unit.
Okay, so I own the condo itself.
Exactly.
I can renovate it, I can decorate it.
Absolutely, it's yours.
Can I rent it out if I'm not using it?
Absolutely. That's a big draw for a lot of people. They might not own the land underneath, but their condo is theirs to do with what they please.
So there's still that potential for income.
Exactly.
If you want to rent it out as an investment property.
Got it.
Okay, so with condos, we've got freehold ownership of the unit itself.
Right.
We've got that 49% rule.
Yeah.
What's the main benefit, I guess, besides it being the simplest option?
It tends to be a smoother process.
Right.
Less bureaucratic than some of the other options, and it's a good fit if you're looking for something that's relatively hands-off.
Hands-off, how so?
Well, a lot of condos, especially in those touristy areas, they have management companies that take care of everything.
Oh, okay.
The maintenance, the landscaping, security, you name it.
So it really is like a vacation home.
Yeah, exactly.
You just show up and it's ready to go.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about a thing.
Okay, now speaking of vacation homes, I do remember seeing something in this guide about condotels.
Ah, yes.
What is a condotel?
It's like a condo, but with a hotel twist.
Okay.
They often operate more like hotels, often with those same management companies, but you get to own the unit.
So if I'm not using my condotel, could I potentially rent it out just like a hotel room?
Exactly. And a lot of people use it as an investment strategy. That way, they buy a condotel and then rent it out when they're not there.
So it generates income.
Exactly. Your vacation home pays for itself.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, who wouldn't?
But for our listener out there who maybe pictures something a bit more spacious,
right,
like a villa?
Ah, yes, the villas.
I have a feeling it's not as simple as buying a condo.
Not quite.
So how do you even begin to approach that as a foreigner?
Well, since you can't directly own the land,
right,
you can look into securing a leasehold.
Okay, leasehold, that's like renting for a really long time.
You got it.
Right.
Basically, you're leasing the land from the owner for a fixed period, and in Thailand, that can be up to 90 years.
90 years, that's essentially a lifetime.
It is, and with options to renew, it can feel pretty close to actually owning the property.
So you could build your dream villa.
Exactly.
And enjoy it for decades.
For decades.
But what happens after those 90 years? Can you renew the lease, or are you just out of luck?
That's where those renewal clauses come in, and why it's so important to work with a reputable real estate agency in Thailand. They'll make sure everything's above board, and those renewals are ironclad.
Okay, so we're going to definitely want to unpack that a bit more because those lease renewals seem crucial.
Absolutely crucial.
But for someone who maybe wants even more control, something closer to actually owning that land, what are their options?
Well, that's where things get a little more complex, but setting up a Thai limited company is a possibility if they're really set on that ownership aspect.
Okay, so a Thai limited company,
Yep.
That sounds very official.
It is a bit more involved.
So how does that even work?
So instead of you personally owning the land, you form a company here in Thailand, and that company becomes the legal owner of the property.
But I thought foreigners couldn't own land in Thailand.
Right, and that's where the catch is.
Okay.
To legally set up a Thai limited company, you need majority Thai ownership.
And so even though it's my company,
In a sense,
I don't have full control.
You don't up to 49%, but Thai nationals would need to hold at least 51% of the shares.
Okay, so what's the benefit then if they have the controlling interest?
It gives you a more direct form of ownership compared to a leasehold.
Yeah.
I mean, the land belongs to the company and you have a stake in that company.
Well, and I'm sensing it, but here,
Right.
it also sounds like a recipe for disaster if things go wrong.
You have to be very careful, and that's why you need trustworthy Thai partners, because they hold those majority shares.
It's like any business partnership, I guess.
Absolutely.
Trust is key.
Trust is essential, and you also have to remember you're subject to Thai corporate law, which has its own intricacies.
Okay, so this is not a solo mission.
Definitely not. You would need a good legal team and probably some financial advisors, too, just to make sure you're navigating everything correctly.
So it's a lot to juggle, but it's a possibility if someone really wants to have that level of control.
Exactly.
And I know there's another situation where owning land might be possible, and it involves, maybe finding that special someone.
Marriage.
Marriage to a Thai citizen.
Yes. If our listener is married to a Thai national, can they buy property?
They can. The property would be purchased under the Thai spouse's name. So the land belongs to the Thai spouse.
Legally, yes.
But what about the foreign spouse? Do they have any rights?
That's where things get a little tricky legally. The land is the Thai spouse's, but to protect the foreign spouse's right to live in the property, they can set up something called a leaseback agreement.
A leaseback agreement. Okay, so it's like what we were talking about earlier with the villas.
Similar idea, but in this case, it's between spouses.
Okay, so the Thai spouse would lease the property to their foreign spouse.
Exactly, and that gives the foreign spouse the legal right to reside there.
Like a safety net?
You could say that, yeah, it provides some security.
But I'm guessing this is another situation where having a lawyer is crucial.
Absolutely. They can make sure the leaseback agreement is ironclad and protects both people involved.
So marriage to a Thai citizen is a possibility, but definitely comes with its own legal considerations.
You said it.
Now, before we move on, I have to ask about this idea of using a Thai friend to buy property.
Yeah.
Is that even legal?
That comes up sometimes, and I can't stress enough how risky it is.
Okay. Because I'm sure some people listening are thinking it's a clever workaround.
Right. It seems like a shortcut, but it's a shortcut to a lot of problems.
So how does that usually work?
Well, a foreigner wants to buy land, but can't, so they ask a Thai friend to buy the property in their name.
Okay.
Often the foreigner provides the money. They have this understanding.
But legally, the land belongs to the friend.
100%.
Oh, boy.
And that's where things get messy. What happens if the friendship falls apart?
You'd have zero recourse.
You're in a vulnerable position, no legal claim to the property.
So that is not a path we recommend.
Definitely not stick to the legal avenues, even if they seem more complicated.
Okay, so we've covered the main options for getting close to owning land condos, leaseholds, setting up a Thai limited company, and joint ownership with a Thai spouse. But I do remember the guide mentioning a couple of other possibilities, these more niche things like prescribed investments and the Board of Investment Scheme. What are those all about? Prescribed investments, the Board of Investment Scheme. Yeah, those sound pretty intense.
A little more niche.
Yeah.
Yeah, prescribed investments basically means you're putting your money into government-approved projects.
Okay.
And that can give you the right to own land.
Interesting.
Like certain government bonds or investing in special economic zones.
So it's less about, having your vacation home and more about a strategic investment.
It is a high-stakes game for sure.
Okay, what about the Board of Investment Scheme? That's the BOI.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
Is that another way to potentially own land?
It can be. It's designed to attract foreign investment. So they offer incentives to businesses and individuals who are willing to invest in specific sectors.
So if our listener was thinking about opening like a tech startup in Thailand,
right,
the BOI might be something to look into.
Exactly. And in some cases, land ownership might be one of those incentives.
Wow. So it's like you're contributing to the economy.
It's a win-win, potentially.
That's really interesting.
But again, it's a complex process, and you need expert help.
So we've covered condos, leaseholds, companies' marriage, even these more niche investment options. And I'm realizing that buying property in Thailand as a foreigner, it's doable.
Absolutely.
But it's not a quick process.
No, it takes time planning and definitely the right team on your side.
Exactly. You can't just like Google it and wing it.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea. Okay, so having a local real estate agent, a lawyer who specializes in Thai property law.
Essential. They'll guide you, make sure everything's legal and above board.
That's reassuring because it can feel overwhelming.
It can be, but that's why you have those experts. They're there to navigate all the complexities.
So for our listener who's been daydreaming about that Thai property, what should they remember as they start taking those next steps?
I'd say the biggest thing is to clarify your vision. What does your ideal life in Thailand look like?
Oh, I like that.
Because that's going to help you figure out what kind of property and what path to ownership is right for you.
Are you sipping cocktails by your private pool, or are you exploring bustling night markets?
Exactly. Two very different vibes.
Very different.
Different properties, different approaches.
So know yourself.
Know yourself.
Know your goals.
And do your research.
And with that in mind, for more information on everything we've talked about today, check out the show notes.
All the links and resources you need.
And until next time, keep dreaming, keep exploring, and we'll see you in our next deep dive.